topic of today is masculine and femininity as a concept. First thing is, before I start off, I'd like to say these are not rigid labels that I'm trying to project onto the masculine and feminine archetypes or expressions. Those are not really labels I'm pinning onto those things, but rather to think of them as pathways, as paths of expression, pathways of journeying through this world. And obviously it's not gender specific. So there's some exceptions to the generalization, of course, but the generalization still stands. That doesn't invalidate the generalization. But hey, let's move forward. So to define the masculine path, so we'll go masculine first. It's, to sum it up in a phrase, to define what masculinity is, or the expression of masculinity, is regulation of one's own frame of reference. In other words, that means mastery. That's the path of mastery. Regulation of one's own frame of reference. So what does that look like at its deeper level? How do you reach that mastery? Through the masculine path. So for one, takes awareness and recognition that you have a frame of reference to begin with. So you need to understand its components, how your frame of reference is affecting your experience, how you experience things, people, the world. That means evaluating your beliefs, your values, your past experience, your cultural background, all of that, which involves a lot of self-reflection and introspection. So that's one. Recognition, that's one. Awareness and recognition that you even have a frame of reference to begin with. That's one. Second is understanding how your frame of reference influences your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Kind of tied to the first one, honestly, but there it's about seeing how your background shapes your interpretation. And thirdly, it's intentional adjustment. That's the most important one. Intentional adjustment. The capacity to consciously modify aspects of your frame of reference when it no longer serves you and when it's no longer helpful to you. That's the most important one. It allows you to be conductive of whatever goals or well-being you're trying to cultivate within, meaning your relationships, your job, whatever, your hobbies, habits, all of that. Adjustment, fine-tuning, adjustments. That's the most important one, because the masculine path requires action. It's very action-oriented. So you want to have a process at play for adjustment. There's no right or wrong way. Everybody finds a different way of that adjustment process. But a very good one is very I guess in balance with the world today is an observation loop. You could do observe. First you observe the situation, and you reorient yourself. You decide what you do. You take action. And then when new things present itself, you repeat the same thing. It's a loop. Observe, orient, decide, action. Observe, orient, decide, action. Observe, orient, decide, action. That's a very good engaging way. Very fun too. It's kind of very fun too. Of engaging the masculine path to overcome stuff and to go through life and experiences. It's a very good one. So we can move on to the feminine path. Obviously I have less experience of this, and it's more intellectual for me, but I do understand it at a deeper level. Maybe there might be somebody that could explain this a lot better than me, because I'm a man, of course. So I don't have much experience of the feminine path. So, but let's move on. But to explain the feminine path is flowing through experience. Flowing through experience. And that's the path of adaptation. That's the path of adaptation. Flowing through experience. So what does that look like? That looks like letting go of resistance. Letting go of resistance. Like instead of fighting or clinging on to specific moments or people or object or events or ideas, beliefs, mindsets, you allow experience to unfold and pass through you as like a channel. It doesn't mean you being passive. Yeah? Doesn't mean that you're being passive, but rather you're not getting stuck up in the negativity and dwelling on the past or being anxious, anticipating the future. So that's what that entails. That's number one. Two is embracing impermanence. Embracing impermanence. That's recognizing that all things, both pleasant and unpleasant, are temporary. That acceptance and embracing it. It's one thing to accept it, but to really connect with the feminine path, you need to embrace that aspect of impermanence, of things being, temporary. And this understanding can bring a sense of peace and reduce the intensity of emotional reactions. Because that's one of the biggest struggles on the feminine path, emotional reactivity, which kind of bites us in the butt a lot of the times. But that ties into being present. That's the third one, being present. Focusing on the current moment, presently, without judgment. Not judgment of yourself, not judgment of the other. When you're truly present, you can fully experience what's happening without being distracted by your thoughts or your emotions of worry or any of that. So you can see how that starts to bring a sense of intrinsic fulfillment, intrinsic peace, intrinsic health. And obviously, like I said before, it's a path of adaptation, the feminine path, the feminine expression, feminine path. It's a path of adaptation, like a river that flows around obstacles, where you need to navigate challenges with flexibility. That's a big part of the feminine path, flexibility. So that also means the body, also means the mind, universal flexibility. So you find ways to keep moving forward. Setbacks don't stop the flow. Setbacks doesn't stop the flow. You flow through experience, always. They might change slightly, but the journey still continues. And that's bringing us on to the next point. It's a journey of constant learning and constant growth. So each experience, whether positive or negative, offers an opportunity for learning and personal evolution. By flowing through them, you absorb the lessons they hold. That's the most important part, the lessons. There's not much to say there, but let's move on to the next one. But yeah, all of that will bring you a sense of ease and acceptance. Just accepting what is, just not resisting what is. And that acceptance can lead to a more peaceful, more less stressful way of living. But obviously, both paths can be taken to their extreme, and it's good for each individual to balance off a little bit of each of the paths, because if you take on one path and just have it as your one tool for everything, it's gonna become an extreme toxic form of expressing those energies, those masculine, feminine energies. So you have toxic femininity, and you have also toxic masculinity. But what those extremes look like? What does those extremes look like? But both of them are. When I say toxic, I don't mean like something evil, but it's more something not mature. It's more something that's not really mature. It's a very immature expression of the feminine or masculine. But the masculine in its non-mature state is more like a child who doesn't know the world outside him exists. It's like he's unaware that there's a complete lack of awareness that the outside world exists. And through that he builds his own prison, or her own prison, or whatever. So through that, not knowing, not being aware that the outside world exists, and there's like different things there, that through that person builds their own prison. But what does the toxic feminine path look like? The toxic feminine, the immature feminine. But it's more like a child who feeds off of validation from the external things or entities, objects, platforms, anything, events, it just things on the whole. They find a sense of validation from external things. The validation doesn't come from within. So it creates like coping mechanisms, resulting in coping mechanisms like conflict avoidant. So you shape shift a lot to avoid conflict, which could result in a lot of bitterness, resentment to your relationships or your friends or your colleagues at work. Bitterness, you feel drained from certain people because you don't really have a strong grasp on your own internal validation, the one you get from inside. But why do these even develop? Why do these toxic expressions, those extremes? When I say toxic, I mean extreme, not something bad. It's more like an extreme version. The extreme is that being the non-mature aspect of it. But why do these develop? In a sense, they're coping mechanisms that develop themselves because of a resistance or fear of taking control of how we choose to perceive things. Something somewhere inside of us, fear of taking control of that freedom to choose how we see. So that's really all that's going on there. It's not really anything complex. But essentially, if you start to observe, you're gonna kind of see it keep popping up more and more and more in your life as you go through your day-to-day life. But yeah, that's really what I had to drop on here. I normally don't do structured videos. It's just me, free, open talk. Almost like I'm talking to a friend, a dear friend, just naturally. But this one I actually created something structured, something more as like a title or an agenda. I hope this makes sense, and I hope this helped you to deeper connect with your path, with your expression of masculine or feminine path. But yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.